The prairie stretched wide as an ocean, its grasses swaying like restless tides, its wind carrying secrets from ridge to ridge. Twilight painted the sky with fire and ash, and a young woman sat alone beside a dwindling campfire, shoulders curved inward as though trying to vanish into herself. Her name was Ayana, and at 23 she had already grown used to the ache of being unseen. She whispered into the smoke what her heart had learned too young: "I am not beautiful enough," as if by repeating it she might make peace with the wound. The night listened but offered no comfort. She had heard the judgment since girlhood. Too quiet, they said. Too proud. Too strange. Men had turned their eyes away, women had dismissed her with pursed lips, and slowly she had come to believe that her face carried no worth. The silence of the prairie seemed to echo this truth, each gust of wind agreeing with her shame. She pressed her arms around her knees and wondered if the earth itself had forgotten her. Then, faintly, hooves drummed against the horizon. A rider appeared where the ridge met the dying sun, tall in the saddle, silhouette cut sharp against the fire-colored sky. Ayana stiffened. She had learned to fear strangers, especially in these wide and lawless lands where kindness was rare. The horse slowed as it approached, snorting clouds into the cooling air. Dust swirled around its hooves. The man dismounted without hurry, as though he had all the time in the world. His name was Caleb Hollister. 30 years old, a rancher by trade, and though wealth clung to his clothes and the fine cut of his boots, his eyes carried something weary, like a man who had buried more dreams than he had lived. He studied Ayana not with boldness but with quiet curiosity. His hand reached for the canteen tied to his saddle. Without a word, he set it near her fire. Then came bread wrapped in cloth, placed beside it with the same gravity one might use in setting down an offering. Ayana's lips parted, but no sound rose. Hunger gnawed at her stomach, yet pride held her rigid. She had known charity before, but always with strings attached. Caleb gave none. He simply stepped back, his expression unreadable. The silence between them stretched, thick as smoke. At last, he touched the brim of his hat, returned to his horse and swung into the saddle. The rhythm of hooves began again, fading toward the dark horizon. As his shadow blended with night, Ayana whispered to the emptiness, "Why did you stop for me?" But the wind swallowed her question whole. Sleep did not come easily. Memories filled the gaps between stars, drawing her back to the village where she had been raised. She remembered the laughter of children cut short when elders leaned close and whispered, "Beauty fades and yours never bloomed." She remembered the young men who courted others, leaving her in the corner, unchosen, the silence louder than any insult. The mantra formed then, carved deeper with each passing year: "I'm not beautiful enough. Never enough." Dawn rose gray and brittle. Ayana packed her meager belongings, intent on leaving the spot where shadows lingered too long. Yet before her fire's last ember died, the sound of hooves returned. She lifted her head. Caleb Hollister approached again. He dismounted slowly, boots pressing into dew-soaked earth. He carried no weapons in hand, only a bundle of firewood. Without asking, he stacked it near her pit, struck flint and coaxed new flame. Ayana watched in guarded silence. His movements were precise, practiced, yet gentle. When he finished, he sat a short distance away, resting his hat on his knee. His gaze held the horizon, not her, and still she felt the weight of his presence. "Why?" she asked at last, voice cracked with sleep. Caleb's jaw tightened, but no answer came. Instead, he unfolded another piece of bread and set it near her. It was not words that grew between them but gestures, small and steady. He gathered water from a nearby creek, brushed dust from her worn shawl with a quiet respect that startled her. They spoke in fragments, about the weather's stubbornness, the cattle that roamed wild, the loneliness of land too vast for a single soul. Ayana studied him in secret. His hands were scarred by rope burns, his shoulders bowed not from weakness but from carrying too much. His eyes, gray as storm clouds, softened when they met hers, though he never once called her beautiful. Instead, his silence suggested something else, something she could not name. It unsettled her, this possibility that someone might see beyond her shame. She told herself not to hope, not to imagine. Hope was dangerous. Yet each evening he returned, and each evening her defenses weakened, like a dam crumbling stone by stone. Their fragile bond was tested the first time they entered town together. Whispers began before their boots crossed the saloon porch. "The rancher with the Indian girl?" murmured a voice thick with disdain. "He'll ruin his name." Another laughed harshly, shaking his head. Ayana felt the sting of those stares cut sharper than any knife. Her skin burned with humiliation, her chest tight with shame. She almost pulled her hand away from Caleb's, ready to flee, but his grip held steady. He did not raise his voice or defend her with bravado. He simply stood beside her, his silence a shield no insult could pierce. That night, lantern light flickered across the ranch house walls as Ayanna whispered, "Why do you risk your name for me?" Caleb's breath caught, but again he did not answer. The silence stretched, deep and uncertain. Ayanna turned away before tears could betray her. Days turned into weeks, and slowly, a change stirred within her. She began to see her reflection not in mirrors. Mirrors had always lied, but in the way Caleb tilted his hat when she entered a room, the patience with which he taught her the rhythm of mending fences or feeding horses, the unspoken reverence in how he set food before her. Each gesture became a thread, weaving dignity where shame had lived. The transformation came into sharp relief the night the storm descended. Thunder cracked across the plains and rain slashed the earth into rivers of mud. Cattle broke their pens, scattering like shadows. Caleb rushed into the night, rope in hand. Without thinking, Ayanna followed. Wind tore at her shawl, lightning split the sky, but she ran into the chaos, her voice fierce against the storm as she helped drive the animals back. Mud swallowed her boots, rain blinded her, yet she pressed forward. By dawn, the herd was secured, the storm spent. Exhaustion dropped her to her knees. Caleb caught her before the ground could, his arms strong, his breath ragged. He carried her inside, laying her near the hearth's glow. The storm outside faded to a whisper, but inside her chest another storm raged. For the first time she felt not broken but unyielding, not a shadow but a flame. Still trembling, she spoke the words she had carried like stones, "I'm not beautiful enough. I've never been." The confession cracked something open, raw and vulnerable. Caleb knelt before her, eyes steady, voice low. "I never cared for beauty as others name it. I've waited for someone whose spirit could outlast storms. Someone whose silence speaks more than noise ever could. You are the beauty I have searched for." The words did not sound like flattery. They sounded like truth hammered on the anvil of loneliness, shaped by years of yearning. Time slowed. Ayanna felt her shame peel away, each word stripping the lies until only warmth remained. She trembled, not from fear but from the weight of being seen. For the first time she believed she could belong. She did not answer right away. Her hand rested within his, trembling, suspended between surrender and doubt. The fire crackled softly, filling the space where silence once carried pain. The moment stretched, fragile and infinite. Weeks later they stood side by side before the open prairie. No vows spoken aloud, no grand ceremony. Their marriage was woven instead through daily labor, through shared bread and laughter, through the quiet assurance of two souls no longer adrift. Ayanna learned to rise each morning with dignity not borrowed from another's eyes but rooted in her own. Caleb's steadiness became her shelter, but it was her own spirit, at last unburdened, that taught her she was enough. And when the wind swept across the wide, unending land, it carried her laughter with it, bright and free, as if the prairie itself had always been waiting to echo it back. To you who listen now, know this. The world may try to name your worth, may try to convince you that beauty is a currency you do not possess. Do not believe it. Let your spirit be the mirror that teaches your eyes to see what was always there, waiting. For somewhere in the wild vastness, a truth waits to meet you. You have always been enough.